Hello and welcome back. Alright, now we are ready to create the first method that we're going to use to implement that's going to read our CSV files. Ooh, that was a tongue twister. Okay, so if we come on down to our main function, we can go ahead and, we'll keep this block for now and just move it down a few lines. So what we want to do is we want to create a new vector, president list1. And so what this is going to do, this is going to hold the contents of the list that we get back after we implement our function. So let's go ahead and call that function that we have yet to create called readCVS file. We'll pass in the name of the file. And so you remember earlier that I had it copied to the data folder, and the first one that we want to read is called presidents.1.csv. And we will pass in the list. Alright, so let's go ahead and copy that name and come up here and define this function. And so it's going to have a return type of void. Copy the name in. First thing it's going to take is a constant standard string file name. And the next thing it's going to take in is a vector president reference list. Make sure you do not make that list a constant parameter, as we will be updating it in this function. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is we want to create our stream object, which is going to open up the file for read access. So in order to do that, we're going to need to import a few things. So if we look up here, we can see that we don't actually have any streams coming in. You can see iostream, but that's kind of that doesn't include everything that we're going to need. So we need to include the fstream class or header, and let's include the iStream as well. And since we're going to want to be using the StringStream helper functions, we want to include sstream. Okay, only with two S's. Okay, and then we're going to scope in a few things that we're going to be using. So we're going to be using a standard string, using standard ifstream, using standard getLine, and using standard iStream stream. And so we'll talk about each of those as we use them. Okay, if we jump down to our readCVS file function, first thing we wanted to do is open up our stream. So we create a new ifstream object. And we'll kind of call it file, and we're going to give it the file name. Now the constructor for the ifstream takes a C string and not a standard C++ string, but there's a function for that we can call off the file name. No problems. And so creating our stream object is really as simple as that. That creates an object that's going to point to our file. It's going to start reading the contents of the file at the very beginning. So that's an important thing to note, actually, that when we read from streams, we read sequentially from them. So we start at a starting point, and then we read until we're done reading. So if we go back and look at our file, our CVS file, remember that our data is all stored in one line, and then each line is actually broken up into further pieces of data that we care about. So we're going to do the same type of we're going to follow that same semantic when we load in the data from the file. So the first thing we want to do is read the first line. So in order to do that, we're going to need to first create a line variable. And then we want to loop. We want to loop until we get to the end of the file. So what we do is we do a while, and we'll use that getLine function. And we pass in the stream that we want to read from, and the string contents that we want to input the data for. Oh, it's the string that we want to hold the data for the line that we just read. and we'll close that loop out. So what this getLine function does is it starts at basically the last position that our stream was at. So when we just created it, it's at 0. So if this function was the beginning of the file, what it's going to do is it's going to read this entire file and store the contents into the line string. And the getLine can also takes an optional third parameter, and the default is the new line character. So getLine is going to read all the way to the end of this contents, and then the stream pointer is basically going to be at this position. So we'll go ahead and delete that because we don't need that there. So now that we've read our line, we know that there's a first name, a last name, and a rank that we want to get out of there. So we're going to need variables for each of those. So we need a first name, a last name, and an integer rank. So, like I said before, we want to be able to, there's the iStringStream class that allows us to use some of the stream some of the stream functionality. And so that's going to make our parsing a lot easier. So we can create a new iStringStream, call it SS, and pass in line. And then we'll call getLine the stream that we want, the variable that we want to store the data in, and then, like I said before, the getLine function takes a parameter of basically where to stop its reading. And so we want to use a comma instead of reading it to the end of the line. And we're going to do this again for the last name. And then we're going to use a little trick that there are overloaded operators for bit shift left, bit shift right that work on streams. They're able to convert stream data into some of the specific types. So in this case, if we do a string or the stream, shift it over right into our rank, this will actually read the stream data and convert it to an integer for us. And so we have all of our 3 pieces of data in really, really simple code. So now that we have all 3 pieces of data, let's go ahead and create a new president and add it to our list. And at the very end, you should always make sure to close your files. So there we have it. We have our read CSV file. So let's make sure that this is going to work. So let's jump down to our main function. And inside our verify lists, let's change the second parameter that we're passing in to be list1. So if all works, we can build. Oh, I have 4 build errors. iStringStream was not defined in this scope. When I scoped this in, I typed it wrong. It's iStringStream, not iStringStream. So I'm sure some of you caught that. Oh, sorry about that. So we rebuild, and Al is happy. We run it. We bring up the console window, and just so you all believe me, I will clear the log, and I will run it again. And we say, oh, the lists are equal. So that's wonderful. So I can prove to you that this is actually doing something correct by, let's comment out the read CVS file here. And then build it, save, jump over there, and then if we run it again, we'll say, oh, the lists are not equal. So now we know that's another way to verify that our list is actually being read correctly. So in the next video, we'll go ahead and take a look at how we can read that more advanced CVS file.